Hello, everyone. Good morning. And I'm like, I don't know how to express my feeling. It's like we have been doing ViteConf for so long, but like this is the first time we do it in person. So I'm so happy to see your face here. I'm so happy to be here and to do the sharing with you. And in case you don't recognize me because I cut my hair, my name is Anthony Fu, and I'm a coding member of Vite, Vue, and Nux. And also I create a few open source tool. I maintain some tool you probably use, hopefully. And currently working at Nux Lab, which right now becomes part of Vercel. And they are sponsoring us working full-time on open source. I recently moved to Tokyo, and I'm really taking an intensive learning of Japanese. So my English got rusted probably, so please bear with me. So for today's topic, let's go straight to the point, and let's talk about Vite DevTools. So you probably heard about some news or some rumors about that. So I'm just not keeping it a secret, just go straight to say. So if you have, so you might have heard about the Vite Plus plan. So I think like we keep mentioning about this. So which aim to be provided as a unified toolchain for JavaScript ecosystem. And starting from Vite, we are basically building rolldowns on underlying OXE, which provide faster and more consistent linting, formatting, and bundling and minifications. And on top of Vite, we're also integrating VTest as part of the Vite Plus ecosystem to testing for both node and browser environments. So with such an ambitious roadmap, we also want to provide some UI dev tools for better visualizations and analyze experience, which is where Vite DevTools come into play. So for giving a more concrete example, we know that we have a CLI that we use daily. It's called Vite Dev for dev servers, and then we have Vite Build for bundling in the production bundle. And then we're going to have Vite Test, which is running VTest underlying for running your test suite. And then we have Vite Linked and Vite Formats, which powered by OX Linked. That's you use the same parser as Vite and the Rolldown. And then we might have Vite Lab as Kevin just mentioned to provide to have you to bundling for libraries on top of TSDOM and the Rolldown and so on. So as we mentioned, the goal is to provide a single unified toolchain with an incredible performance for JavaScript ecosystem. So regarding for Vite DevTools, it's going to be present as a CLI flag as --UI for all the sub commands. So showing the UI interface for each operations and help you to understanding the internals better. And this is not working right now, but just to demonstrate what is. And okay, so first thing first, why we need a DevTools. And before we talk about why, I'd like to first discuss what is DevTools like in my mind. And when we talk about DevTools, they can be either means a general developer tools or a specialized term, DevTools. So I would define general developer tool as a tools for developers. So in that sense, the tool we use daily like Vite, VTest, Vue, Nux, etc. are all actually developer tools. But on the other hand, the specialized DevTools usually means the tools for using tools better. Like for example, we know that Chrome has a built-in DevTools that we use to inspect our page, and then we have Nux DevTools, Vue DevTools, etc. So the DevTool we're going to talk about today are going to be referred for the later one. And so why we are building tools for using tools? And if you think about how we what makes it a good tools, I would give a following points. So the first thing is just like entry barrier. A good tool should be easy to start with and easy to configure, and probably easier to explain to someone doesn't know the project in one single sentence. And the second one will be intuitive. So we should match user expectations and intuitions to create a good developer experience and make it easy to discover new features. And the third I would pick is transparency. So when we using a tool, it's better for users to know how it works and how the state is. So if something goes wrong, we can find out why more easily. So sometimes we want to work with black box, but sometimes we hate black box, right? And enable to be compatibility. To having decoupled modules and make it the feature easier to combine and extend with the other tools and leverage their full powers. And the final one to pick is extensibility. What makes a software different from the one-off script is that the software is meant to be adapted to different scenarios and being extendable with a flexible plugin ecosystem, plugin systems, ability to customize, which is I think is one very important aspect of good software. So that said, the reason we are building DevTool is to provide transparency to our tools, to help users to understand better and see through the internal state. So let me give some examples for what I mean about transparency. So my personal journey about building DevTools started with Uno CSS. So since Uno CSS is a generator for CSS utilities on demand based on the code base, so when I'm working on it, one thing I find it tricky is to knowing that's why one utility was included and why the other wasn't. So I built this visual inspector as a web page to show how each file is being scanned and how they are contributing to the utility list. So this kind of transparency helped me to kind of know what's the internal state and help us to build the engine more efficient and with better accuracy. And then at the beginning of the Vite ecosystem, I was there to build quite a lot of plugins for Vite. And it was at first it was pretty tricky to debug, as I have to use console log here and there to see the internal state of the transformer tools. I mean, console log is still my best friend though. But I end up to be building this UI called Vite plugin inspect to show the transform for the transform internals. So I'm just curious, have you ever used these things? Please raise your hand. Okay, that's more than I expect. Thank you. So these are tools I think usually designed for plugin authors to see if they are building a plugin, if they're transforming the files right or wrong. Okay, thank you. And then it's kind of related to what Vite DevTools is going to be. And then I built a UI for Vitess to when I was working on Vitess to visualize all the tasks, and because when you have thousands of tasks, it's really hard to check which file is passing, which file is failing, and also you want to know the relationship of each module's relationship and why, when you update a source file and how each task being retriggered or something like that. So then with the DevTool, you can interact with them, you can rerun the task, and that's something we also built for Vitess. And then you probably heard about Nux DevTools, which was a very big project I was working on about DevTools, which displayed the internal states of Nux in various aspects. You can see the components, you can see the auto imports, or a lot of different things, or you can testing for the server API, etc. And which also provide an API for plugin for Nux modules authors to contributing to the DevTool. So as you can see on the little bit left bottom, you can see the Vitess tab, Uno CSS tab. So we should working on the Nux DevTools, which is actually the main source of inspiration for what are you going to do with Vite DevTools. And then quickly, just trying to introduce you. I built a ESLint config inspector to visualize the relationship of the new ESLint flag config, which it started as a fun project when I trying to migrate from the legacy config to the flag config, and I made it as a side project and later becomes the official one of ESLint. So I think probably you use ESLint -- inspect, it will shows up this page for you if you're using flag config. And then, so you probably heard about the joke about black hole of your node modules, right? You saw the graph, and then I don't know if it's only me or something, but have you ever been curious about what things actually inside the black hole? So, and I was so I made this node module inspector. So I want to see what's the the dirty things inside the black hole. So this will shows you the full graph of the relationship of all the packages inside your node modules. So you can play with it. You can see why your package is why your node module is so big. And I wouldn't recommend you to try this tool when you have a good moon, because it'll make your moon bad. So, but it's definitely useful to know what you actually have and probably do some action with it. Okay. And then you can also, with this node module inspector, you can also see how each package is contributing to node module side by size and side by side, something like that. But I mean, there's a lot more about these things. So if you're interested, definitely go try it. But this is not our topic today. So for all of that, what I want to show you is how DevTool can be interesting in so many different aspects, and to share basically my own journey of tools like building DevTools. So finally, let's talk about what do we have in Vite DevTools. So first, so for Vite DevTools, we are currently focusing on the build mode, which is powered by Rollup Vite, and we consume the output data from Rollup. So here's a basic overview of your project, of that build. And then the first thing I want to let you know is you can see how many modules is built into your bundle. So not all your source code is not necessarily all your source code is being bundled into your bundle, right? And whether they are from your own source code or your npm package or some generated virtual modules from plugins as you install. If you have yeah, I don't know how many view developers here, but if you look at it, this is a question mark view, and this is a lot of things. We basically work around to have single file components to mapping with different source, TypeScript, CSS, something like that. So I hope you don't need to deal with them. Yeah, but just saying, okay. And they also provide different views, you can see them by trees and where you can group them by types, by folders. So I think we're probably going to have a view to say which actually in the source file, in your source file that you are not using inside your bundle. So which can be that code estimate, probably we could do something with that. So I'm just saying this can opens a lot, opens the door for we can do a lot of things if you find something interesting. And then on the graph view, you can see how each module has been included with their relationship. So you have A import B, B import C, and you want to know why C is getting imported, or you have a circular references, something like that. So you have a draggable interactive map with it. And then inside each modules, if you click in, so you can see the whole transformation and bundling flow. And so usually, if you're familiar with the Rollup or Vite's plugin pipeline, that you have resolve ID and then load and then transform, and then you have maybe chunking and then generate. They would output the file, something like that. So we're just trying to have this all pipeline make sense from your source code to your final disk. So this is at least all the things you can click and you can see the internal state. Why when you import Lodash, why it's being resolved to that file or not this file, something like that, or something like that. And then you can click in. So this takes a big step forward from the previous Vite plugin spec, which was mostly focusing on transform, and we leveraging the full metadata from Rollup. So it will be find more it can display more interesting informations, and probably could help you to find bugs in your plugins and optimizing your chunking. So in transform, if you click in, you can see the before and after of each plugin, which is similar to Vite plugin spec, and we highlight the difference so you can know if you're transforming something wrong. And then inside the chunking, you can also see how many modules is being into each chunk. And for example, ideally, you don't want your entry chunk to be too big, as it will be included in and loaded in every page. So the page helps to explain why the chunk is so big and providing you guidance to see how you can optimize it, how you can chunking it better. And we also care about performance. So this table kind of tell you for each module, how each hook and how every plugin is costing your time costing you build time, and potentially help you to find slow plugins and optimize, as Alex was just sharing, how you can do to optimize the communication between between Rust and JavaScript. And then talking about plugins, there are essential components that make Vite as such a powerful ecosystem as today. But they could also commonly be the bottleneck of your build performance. So we know that now Vite itself is being very fast, and now if you have a very slow plugin, and then it doesn't make all the work that's migrating to roll down Vite that's worth it. So we definitely better to find them out. So this is going to list all the plugins that's participated in your build pipeline, and which you can click into like each of them. And inside of that, you can see how this plugin is using the hooks on the left, and you can see how many times the hook's being called and how much time it's being called. Okay, and this will be interesting to see how the plugin is slowing you down. And in the future, we're also providing some actionable suggestions so that you can report to upstream to the plugin authors about them, so that them aware to probably improve that, optimize it for having roll downs in the future. And then about chunking, we can also visualize the file, included them, and then the relationship between each chunk. And a huge portion of app is actually comes from third-party packages. I'm just saying that, I'm just come up with this idea that's probably interesting to see what's the ratio of your own source code and packages. But here it's just we have an overview of how many packages you have been bundles, and which their versions, and how big this bundle size is. And most importantly, it shows the version and tell you if you have a duplicate packages with different versions, which we would likely to avoid. And about package size, don't let package authors tell you how small their packages are. But because we have trade shaking taking place, the size can be very different based on your usage. So in Vite DevTools, we're going to visualize the presentation of the size of the dependency based on your real usage, based on your real trade shakings. Yeah. And that said, I want to mention that we have all these cool things visualized, but Vite DevTools is not only about internal data visualization. So if you think about the UI we just talked about, you find that we might not often need them as the regular developers. I think this mostly for plugin authors or meta framework builders. They may want to know the internals. So it could be a little bit too advanced for our daily development. So this actually totally makes sense, because Vite is designed to be framework agnostic. Agnostic means that we don't know about the framework you use, and we shouldn't know. And it gives Vite great flexibility and extensibility to be the infrastructure of modern frameworks. But it also makes hard for Vite to present interesting information that's more closer to the app, to the Vite user, to the app you are building, and to know the state of your framework, of your React state, or how many times you have been rendered for the components, etc. So if you know, if you look at the graph at the right, so imagine that each circles represent a specific framework or integrations. So being agnostic means that Vite DevTools can only be the common dividers among all these frameworks, which is quite limited, and it's not always useful for major users. That's why the next thing we're going to talk about is extensibility. In order to bring interesting framework-specific information to user, we want to provide a capability for frameworks to do so, as what we are doing for Vite DevTools. So I see extensibility as one of the most important factors that make Vite as it today. So there's no reason we should do the same for Vite DevTools. So if you have watched my previous talk, you probably seen this slide that I made roughly 2 years ago when I was presenting Next DevTools. So it's picturing an idea of having a shared infrastructure for building DevTools. It's called DevToolsKit. So the idea is to create a modular, composable, collaborative DevTool ecosystem. So for example, we know that some features that we are not coupled with any frameworks, as we just showed. It's Vite specific thing. It's more about bundling. And then we have features like Vite Plus ecosystem, like VTest or XC-based linting and formatting. And if we go into the front end, we also have some like web general related information like SEO, accessibility, PWA, and so on. No matter what framework you use, you probably also care about it. And then go specific to framework. We can take Vue as an example. We might have UI for visualizing components, your activity tree, your routers, etc. And going forward, we might have Meta framework like Nux, which providing Nux-specific visualization, like Nux modules, auto imports, file-based routing, or like server API, because we also have a like a backend thing. And then in that sense, we can also have tools for React. We can also have it for Svelte, for Solid, for Quick, and so on. And then we have tool integration as well. So we can have like different, we have tool integration. So if you think about all these blocks as a pluggable extensions, and we could compose them easily based on your need. For example, we can take Vue and Nux related things as making we can call it as Nux DevTools. And then without Nux specific thing, you can have Vue DevTools for general Vue developers based on Vite, or they have their own custom setup. And similarly, we could also have DevTools for the other framework easily, maybe a React DevTool based on Vite, or Svelte DevTools, or Solid DevTools, or Astro DevTools. It depends. Or maybe you can compose based on your own project, based on the things you actually need to make your own DevTools. So that's the plan we are thinking to have the DevToolKit. So the original idea of DevToolKit was discontinued due to various reasons. So mainly because we are not so sure about if we're building it from Nux side and people would adopt to it. But this time it's different. So since we are building a dev tool for Vite, it means that when it's ready, all the framework built on top of Vite would naturally benefit from it without friction. So we are bringing the vision of DevToolKit to Vite DevTools. So instead of asking DevTool author to migrate to a common pattern, now you're just building a plugin for Vue. You're building a plugin for Vite, and it automatically becomes a plugin of DevTools. So let's take a glance of like how Vite DevTool plugin would look like. So in general, a Vite DevTool plugins would be a superset of Vite plugin. So meaning you don't need to do anything special, but only adding a DevTools hooks into your plugin, and it will work. So the code on the right is a procedural code snap. That's show you like how you could do that. So it actually already worked today, but for the reason I call it procedural is because there's nothing set in stone yet. So we are still experimenting it. So don't counting on that so much. So it might change a lot. And then, so Vite DevTools, we're going to provide a built-in RPC layer, a remote procedural code, and to have plugin authors to extend the communications between server and client, or client to client, more easier. And we also want to make it possible for users to decide the way they consume the DevTool. So in Vite DevTools, we're going to support embedded floating panels, as you probably see that in Nux DevTools that have a floating panel inside your app that you can jog around. And then we're also going to provide a browser extension. That's if you prefer the browser version, or maybe a standalone app, you can have a different tab, or it can be deployable to be a SPA. That's like you can deploy to somewhere as a snapshot of your current data and publish to share with someone that's to show, oh, this is something wrong with my build. So you can take a look. I give you all the metadata to you. So Vite DevTools will be providing these abstraction layers to support all these scenarios isomorphically. So you don't need to worry about like how you deal with the communication between browsers, browser DevTools, and your main page or the server, something like that. So we want to kind of make things easier for people to build DevTools on top of Vite. Okay, and then that shows how it looks like So in general, you're going to provide a doc-like UI for the entry point of integrations. For each integration, we'll provide frames to render each DevTools UI. So it can come with custom renders, or it can also run scripts. So with this is quite a proof of concept to have Vite's Next DevTools and Windows CSS integrated. In the future, we're going to look forward to collaborate with more DevTools authors to bring them to Vite DevTools, which also help us to verify if we have all the capability that's necessary for building DevTools on top of Vite. So on a broader view, the goal and vision of Vite DevTools is that we're going to provide a better transparency and enables the ecosystem to explore further. Built in, we're going to provide the visualizations of the Vite internals, analyze actionable suggestions for your build and plugin pipeline, and build comparison across multiple commits and to show how the apps have been changing over time. And then we have build snapshot, as I just mentioned, as a deployable SPA for you to even share the build metadata as a reproduction or something, and so on. And then we're going to have first-party Vite Plus integrations like Vite's UI or OX-linked visualizations for you to see them when you do the testing or do the linting. And finally, we're building the DevToolKit for plugin authors to build on top of this infrastructure and create even more interesting use cases. So the scope of Vite DevTools has become pretty big, and it's taking a bit longer than we expected. So currently, we have implemented a few visualizations, as we just talked before, and then we have continued working for we are continue working on more insights for bundling analyze, which we're working closely with the rollout team to have all these data visualized. And then we have DevToolKit baseline working, and already some prototype that's as you saw, porting Next DevTools to Vite DevTools working. But there's quite a lot of work like polishing and to be done, and also we need to properly document them. And I'm just like feel quite stressful because I want to make the plugin API perfect, but I know it's hard. So it took time. And currently, the core UI of Vite DevTools is focusing on the build mode only. And we are waiting on the Vite for bundle mode to roll out to support the development mode. And finally, in the long term, we want to work and collaborate with the ecosystem to bring the effort together for everyone to benefit from the ecosystem. So in short, unfortunately, Vite DevTools is not ready. It's not usable at this moment, but we are actually working on it. Please be patient and stay on, and we'll let you know when it's ready for you to try. Okay. And finally, I would like to say thank you for Arrow, who helped a lot on the development of Vite DevTools. Guillaume for being so inspiring for his previous work on Vite DevTools and the testing framework UIs, and also help like at the early stage of Vite DevTools, DevToolKit, for also brainstorming and prototyping the ideas together. And then for Yunfei for coordinating on the roll-down side to provide APIs to make Vite DevTools possible. And then thanks to Sebastian, who see these ideas of Next DevTools and then invest so much on building it, and now also for Vite. So also thanks to all the contributors who previously contributed to Vite DevTools, Next DevTools, and Vue DevTools as well. And all your contributions, ideas made it possible for us to build Vite DevTools today. Thank you. And I also counting on you to join us and help out. Okay. So the source code is located at repository vite.js/devtools, and go check it out. And there's many things that are going at the same time, so it can be a little bit mass and a little bit overwhelming, but we're trying to improve the contribution guide and the docs in the meantime for you to make the contribution easier. I'm looking forward to see you here to see how we can work together with the whole ecosystem to explore more and more interesting things that we build together. And thank you. That's all for my talk.